As I make this video, it is just a little bit past midnight, and I really am kind of a night owl. It's really easy for me to just go ahead and stay up for quite a period of time. And so I thought, you know what? Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go on a virtual road trip from Helena, Montana to Bentonville, Arkansas, because I'm going to be making that move myself in real life. So I thought, why not do it in this game? And why not record it so we can go on that virtual adventure together? So, interestingly, the Walmart store that I spent the last 5 years of my life working in is actually in this game. So I'm able to pick up a load at that Walmart store, and then we will head out. So trying to back up my truck to connect to a trailer here. As somebody who works for Walmart, there's a lot of similarities to the building that appears in the game to the real ones that exist in real life. However, there's also some major problems. And I think it's a little bit funny to look at them and kind of point them out. Like, for example, when we look at this Walmart store, it's called Walbert in the game, but it's not very difficult at all to connect the dots. So we've connected to our trailer and we're getting ready to head out here. But like, what are these doors? It's like multiple fire exits, I guess. I don't know. Like, why is there so many doors? Doesn't make a lot of sense. Then we got this what appears to be some kind of freight sitting out there in the corner. Now that could probably actually be at a real Walmart store. You may well see something like that. So I'm not going to say that that's unrealistic. That actually might be pretty realistic, though you really shouldn't see anything like that outside of a Walmart store. If I saw that in real life, I'd also be asking myself, why is, like, what is that? Like, what are those tall boxes over there? And what are the little boxes? Like, is it maybe refrigeration supplies or something that the HVAC team just left there? I don't know. Like, it doesn't really make a lot of sense exactly what we're looking at there. It's probably facilities maintenance, and it's probably some kind of a project, and then they just kind of left it half-assed sitting around. That's probably what happened. But then we look over here behind the store, and we got another bay door just there. I don't know exactly what is going on there, like a weird little back room, but there's no one there and the door's just hanging open. So that is a little bit of a concern to me. And then I look over here and we have another receiving door which is open and there's a guy there. So, like, why? Like, I don't know. Like, there's not really a delivery happening right now. We wouldn't open the door until there is actually a reason to do so. So it looks like this guy's opened the door, like maybe because it's hot in there or something. But that shouldn't happen. It's a pest concern. And there we have some empty pallets, and they're just like leaning up and thrown around, and like that's lazy. It shouldn't be. Cardboard bale. It shouldn't just be sitting there like that. It should be stacked up over in a neat stack so that the bale pickup people can come and get it. Now here we have a cage there. Let's take another look at that. So we have this cage out back, and that's fine. I appreciate that we have a guy in there sweeping. Like, I don't know why he's inside there sweeping with the gate closed. Like, he clearly went in there and he closed the gate behind him, and then he went in there and to sweep. Like, he's probably just wasting company time. That's what he's doing. And then over there on the other side, again, we have more open bay doors that are not attended by anyone. So that's a risk, a shrink control risk, and also a pest risk. And there we have an open top. We've got a dumpster, and they're throwing garbage in there, and that's concerning. That's concerning because, like, why is that must mean the compactor has broken, and so now they have to use an open top to store their garbage because they can't put it into the normal compactor the way they should. And again, the cardboard bales are just stacked up randomly, like nobody really cares. The only positive thing I see here is that there's only, what, 7 of them there, plus that 8th one that was sitting over there by the compactor. So they don't have too many cardboard bales, so at least they do appear to be getting routine pickup. But they should be stacked up in a neat, orderly kind of a way. And then I would look back at that cage over there with the guy sweeping in it, and I would ask, like, what is all the stuff in there? Like, do they need to have it and it's stored outside? Now out here we have, interestingly, we have several forklifts at this facility, because we just saw one. We saw one on the other side. We saw one inside the cage, and then we have a third one right here. There's a guy working on it, and I appreciate that, but then I would also wonder, like, is this guy the actual technician? Is he certified to be working on that? Probably, because he's not in any kind of dress code, so he's wearing that blue suit that doesn't look like he's a Walmart employee, Walmart associate, so that's all right. But I don't know how they managed to have 3 forklifts. Like, how many forklifts do they need? And again, more boxes just sitting out here. Like, what exactly is going on here? And then somebody just left a pallet jack there. Why? And the pallet jack is unattended, is sitting there, and it appears to be sitting in front of an emergency exit, so that's a safety concern right there. And then what is that garbage? Like, there's garbage just all over the pavement there. Like, somebody needs to get out there. Like, that dude that was back there sweeping should be over here sweeping that up, but he doesn't care. He's just there to hang out. So we're gonna go a little further, and all right, there's some empty pallets, so that's all right. It's all right. We'll let it be. And then here we have graffiti on the wall. That's not good. Somebody should have done something about that. And we have these little dumpsters. Now, the little dumpsters would be at a Walmart store, but they would be used for organics compost. And when I look in here, I see that's not what they're being used for here. They're being used for garbage. There's cardboard boxes in there, there's plastic bags, and the lid is open, so it's potentially attracting pests as well. And then more empty pallets, just not really being organized and stacked in a neat, orderly kind of a fashion. I'm a little disappointed with the backside of the building, the graffiti on the walls. Then we come out here to the front, and more graffiti on the walls. We got somebody sweeping. Again, that's good, they're sweeping, but clearly they have not done a very good job of sweeping the facility, because there's a lot of garbage just kind of around everywhere. More pallets just stacked haphazardly, and we have what appears to be more boxes on pallets out here. Like, I at this point I have no option but to assume that that's actually freight, and that's very concerning that they have freight here just sitting in front of the store in the part of the building that's customer facing. Like, it's not even behind the store, it's just out front sitting there. Clearly it's sitting in the pickup area. Like the pickup area is where the digital pickers should be coming in and out to deliver groceries to the customers in their car, and this is just a very poor representation of the brand. It's just very, very disappointing that that's happening. Like, I'd assume that little door over there where those guys are sweeping would be kind of where the pickup dispense would be happening. So, you know, just all in all, not a great look. As we look out over the parking lot, we see that there are, you know, kind of full cart returns. There's plenty of shopping carts in there that haven't been brought back in. I do also wonder why there's shopping carts that are silver with red handles there, and then if we look at the cart returns out in the parking lot, there's red shopping carts. So looks like they have different colored shopping carts, and you know, red is not the Walmart color for a shopping cart. So like, did they go get shopping carts from Target? We got plants out there, and some of them are just sitting on the sidewalk, and it doesn't even look like they're really visibly priced. So that's disappointing. As we look inside, there's the grocery entrance, and what's crazy there is it looks like we have some kind of product merchandise racks right in front of the door. And I don't really see any of the compliance signing that should be there, like, you know, service animals, hours of operation, things like that. There really just isn't, they don't have any of their compliance signing up there. And they have product in front of the door, which probably shouldn't be there. Like, it just doesn't look like they're really running the play. Now here we got another guy standing around, like maybe contract security, I guess, but he's not doing much for the store. Like, he's standing there just taking a little break in the behind the bicycle rack. So not sure about that. Then we got kayaks hanging up there from the wall, like way up there. Like, how did they even get them up there? And then it looks like they like roped them up into the side of the wall, like they just anchored them in there. They just screwed into the side of the wall in an unapproved way to hang those kayaks up there. Like, that's, I mean, I appreciate the effort, but that's not good. Then as we go a little bit further, here we have another weird situation where they've made a sort of a kayak fixture out of pallets. And that's not an approved use of pallets. They should not be doing that. The pallets should be sent back to the distribution center. They should not be using them as part of a merchandise display. And the other issue is pallets standing on end like that would be a potential OSHA concern. So it's both a compliance issue and also just not process. And one kayak seems to be falling over, so I don't know if they're really secured in a way that's safe. It looks like they're just leaning up against the wall, and that's not ideal. So, you know, more plants on the sidewalk, just not really super great merchandising. And like when we look at those plants, are those plants sitting on benches? Like, is that even a merchandise display? I don't know. Then we look inside here. This is apparently the general merchandise side entrance, and as we look inside there, it almost looks like there's a shopping cart filled with returns and random stuff just sitting in front of the front door. I don't know. That doesn't look too good. I also see what appear to be hand shopping baskets, but the stacks of them, which is, it's great they're there, but it also kind of looks like they're the wrong colors. Like, there's multiple different colors of hand shopping baskets. So you got to wonder, like, did they get their shopping baskets even from the right place, or are we using like the shopping baskets of other retailers or something? So yeah, not sure about that. So kind of more of the same. But then here we have a bush, and if you look at that bush, it's like hanging straight over the edge into the parking lot. So like, is that bush really being pruned in the right way? Like, it looks like they're not really doing landscaping the way they should. And then as we look over there, there's also another little kind of pile of garbage just right there, almost like somebody swept up the garbage against the curb and then just left it there. And here we have what appears to be soil, Miracle Grow, some plant racks, more people just standing around over there, and it really just looks like complete total disarray. You know, like what's the more empty pallets? There's more graffiti on the wall. We have more of what looks like random freight just sitting there. And then we have this little guardhouse, which would apparently be indicative of some kind of construction project going on there, which would mean that people need to check in and check out as they go in and out of the site. But there's no one inside there, so, you know, why is it there if there's not going to be anyone manning the booth? I don't know. So that's kind of all right. We're about ready to leave the facility. We're, you know, again, it's not really our problem. We're you know, truck driver. I'm not gonna rat or squeal. Like, I'm just gonna say, you know, it is what it is. But I'm not super sure that I'm extremely impressed with anything that I see happening there at the store. But then again, to be fair, having worked at the actual building that inspired this one in the video game, I'm usually not really impressed with anything that happens there. Anyway, so maybe that is a fair representation of the subject material. Anyway, I'm sure we've spent far too long, you know, studying the fake Walmart store, and so we will you know, we will let that be what it is and prepare to set out. And take a screenshot for what will be the thumbnail in this image. I can see a plane taking off over there from the airport, which is actually taking off from the correct place where the airport actually would be in real life. And there is Dream Burger. The good news is, in real life, that is a Burger King. So kudos to the devs for putting in the Burger King there. And I can see a building off in the distance there, which I immediately recognize as the Department of Transportation headquarters building. Sorry, guy. Here I have a car trying to make their way into the parking lot. That would be the Wells Fargo Bank over there, and what used to be a Big Lots store across the street. And we have the Exxon oil refinery over there. I do appreciate the attention to detail that was put into the Montana American Truck Simulator DLC. They got a lot of stuff really right. My biggest gripe was that you can't follow, like if I turned left here, that would be the most efficient route in real life to go through Townsend and eventually make your way to Bozeman, Montana. But I can't go that route because that was not a road that was included in the game. So we have to turn right to get on Interstate 15. Go over here. But once we get over here, it's definitely a pretty fair representation of what you would actually see in real life. Like that little path there, pedestrian path, where you cross the highway entrance and then it goes over the freeway here. That actually exists in real life, and I've walked that exact path many times. So we have 1,494 miles to go. Not super sure if I'm going to do all of this recording in one go, or if I'm going to possibly go to bed and then finish it tomorrow. I was thinking it would be pretty cool to do a separate video, maybe just showing the real life places that exist and the game version. Like that building over there on the right hand side is the La Quinta Inn. It exists in real life. And a little further down we have the Days Inn, and we have the old Albertson store, and we have the Bank of the Rockies, all of which are real buildings that exist in real life, and they made their way into the game, which is pretty cool because that's actually my neighborhood. So like I can pretty much drive the street that I live on, and that's actually pretty cool. And now as I make this video, prepare to move to Arkansas in a couple of days, we get to kind of go on that virtual road trip here on the channel. Probably as I go, I will record video of the real places that I visit on my way down there. But, you know, the goal is for this to be a gaming channel at its core. Kind of a hybrid, I guess. A mixture of gaming and life stuff and scenery from places that I live or visit. And we're going to try not to crash into anybody. That's going to be the main challenge. It's actually pretty easy to get complacent and then potentially have some sort of a minor accident in the game. I mean, hopefully that doesn't happen in real life, but I think it's easier to have an accident in the game than it is to have an accident in real life, just because, you know, there's a little bit more tactile experience when you're driving a real vehicle down a real road versus sitting there at your desk with a Xbox controller. Anyway, we're leaving Helena. We're on Highway Interstate 15, headed south. Next town we go to will be Butte, Montana. We should get there pretty quickly. In real life, going from Helena down this road to Butte would be about an hour drive, but because the game map is a lot smaller than real life, it's probably not going to be very long at all until we make our way into Butte. Now, because of limitations in the game, we're going to be cutting down through Colorado, I think Kansas, as we make our way to Arkansas, because the Dakotas are not yet released in the game, so I cannot drive the actual route that I will be taking when I go there in real life, because I'm gonna stop and spearfish South Dakota and then I believe Sioux Falls before I make my way down to the final leg of the route. Now, if you look up on the left side, we can see on the top of that hill the Lady of the Rockies statue of Mary, very big statue of Mary at the top of the hill there. That's a landmark. In real life, it made its way into the game, and it's a really cool story because the guy who put that statue there, his wife had cancer, and she recovered from her illness, and he thought that was miraculous, and so he wanted to create a monument to appreciate perhaps God and his faith and his wife. And then some of his friends and other guys got together, and they all started raising money, and it turns out the money just kept flowing in, and so the plan for the statue got bigger and bigger as time went on, and eventually he had enough money for an enormous statue of the Virgin Mary up on top of that mountain. And so now there is a enormous statue of Mary on top of the hill overlooking Butte, Montana, and people will go up there on pilgrimages. They will hike up there. Sometimes they will take helicopter rides up there. If you go to the mall in town, there's a place that does helicopter tours to get you up top there. The mall's mostly abandoned in Butte. So the Our Lady of the Rockies tour is about one of the very few things that actually still is in that mall. It's one thing about Montana malls, they tend to be pretty dead. Like, there's just not a lot of things going on in malls in Montana. The Missoula Mall is probably the best one, and then maybe the one in Bozeman, maybe Billings has a decent mall. But if you like shopping malls or shopping in general, Montana is not really the place for it. Now, over there on the left side of the road, there are some dead trees, and I think I'll point that out just as a realism thing. You will see a lot of dead trees in Montana because there's these beetles which have invasive beetles of some kind, and they have killed a lot of trees. So you'll find nice forests in Montana which have a lot of dead wood in them because of the beetles. So now you know. Anyway, we've gotten onto Interstate 90, and now we're headed east on I-90, headed toward Billings, with 1,398 miles left to go. And there's a runaway truck ramp over there. I don't think in American Truck Sim that your brakes really ever go out, though, so that's a detail which is pretty cool, but you're probably never going to really use one in the game. I have played the game a lot, but I haven't necessarily ever made a video like this where it's just kind of a long play video, and it's all about being immersed in the experience of the drive, just focusing on the actual details and looking around. Now there's a river, I'm not super sure, but I'm assuming it's probably the Three Forks River area, which is actually the beginning of the Missouri River. And the Missouri River starts near Bozeman, Montana, and then it travels north past Helena into Great Falls, and then it runs along what we would call the High Line back toward Glasgow, Montana, in the northeastern part of the state, and then eventually it starts to snake its way south, where it, a long ways further down, will connect with the Mississippi River, I believe, in or near St. Louis. Now that there would appear to be Bozeman, Montana, and that's a pretty good representation of the view there from the main highway exit. Try to look around without crashing. You can actually see where the Walmart store in that area is. That would be right there. Again, it's a Walmart store which has been duplicated in the game. Pretty cool. And there are some hotels over there which reflect the real hotels that are in the game, are in that real place. I've stayed at those hotels. Kind of struggling with lane maintenance in this view. There's a billboard there for steaks, which is kind of cool. Steak is definitely a big thing because Montana is cattle country. More cows than people in Montana. Lots and lots of cows and steaks. Though if you like other kinds of food, you're going to struggle. And, you know, certainly if you're one of the folks who likes to have vegan options or vegetarian food, Montana, again, probably not the place for you. 147 miles out of Billings. Now, while we're at it, we have portable storage on this truck, and if this were a delivery from a Walmart store, I would also wonder, like, what exactly are we hauling in there? It could be something like, you know, truck unload line or something that the store didn't need, so they returned it. So it's used assets going back to, you know, home office, I guess. Be a little bit unusual, but we're going to say that that's what it is. It's part of a, you know, unloader line or something like that. We're bringing it all the way back to just outside Northwest Arkansas. This exit leads to White Sulphur Springs. I've gone to a rodeo in White Sulphur Springs once. That was kind of cool. The only rodeo I ever attended was in White Sulphur Springs. It's not actually very far. It's definitely a place where I could drive to from my home in Helena and come back the same evening. Not very far at all. Rodeos are definitely a thing that's pretty big in Montana. I don't know if I care too much about them one way or the other, but they are kind of a cool thing. There's a vibe to them, you know? That whole idea of wanting to be a cowboy, maybe we're not all meant to be a cowboy, but my goodness, I do like to wear a cowboy hat and some cowboy boots and stuff, and even if it's all just a bunch of fakeness, I just love it, you know? Kind of like how you play a video game and you make a character and you make them the way you want, and, you know, doesn't matter if it's real or not, it's just cool. My character in Elder Scrolls Online has a cowboy hat. I was super excited about it too, because the cowboy hat that I got, I don't even remember how I got it, but I think it was like a special thing in the store at one point, and I was finally able to have like a real cowboy hat kind of a deal after not really ever being able to have exactly that until I finally found it in the store. So I think we're gonna have to pull over and get some sleep at some point, and the road is going by pretty quick. Right now we have 1,276 miles left to go, so I'm thinking in real life I'd like to go to sleep by 2 o'clock in the morning. So if that is the case, then I have another hour or so, a little more than an hour, before I necessarily would want to go to sleep in real life. So 30 minutes into the video, I think possibly we can make it the whole way, and then I'll finish my video and go to bed, and it'll work out just fine. I do have a tendency to like to stay up late, then I struggle to get up in the morning. And there's a few practical reasons for that. Like, one reason is it's quiet at night. Like, there's like no one else is up. And I live alone, so it's not like I have like other family that are up, but it's just kind of nice knowing like there's no commotion. Living in an apartment, there's no one else, like people aren't going in and out, and you don't hear people out there chattering in the hallway and things like that. It's cool at night, so I don't need to have the air conditioner running or anything like that, so it can just be nice and quiet. You know that no one's gonna mess with you. There's not gonna be any phone calls or text messages or other stuff that just might distract you or disturb you. So that sense of just, you know, quietness, I guess, is what I like about it. And then you know that you're gonna go to sleep, and then, you know, like, you don't have the whole day ahead of you. You know, like that's just such a nice feeling, knowing you just have you and whatever it is you're doing, and no disturbances, and the knowledge that you can just chill, and whenever you get tired and go to sleep, then you can rest, and the day will be over when you decide that you are weary. That's kind of a nice feeling, I think. I know some people say that you should always get up super early. It should be like a productivity thing. I don't know. I really don't. Maybe. When I have to go to work, though, like, then I get up early. But if I don't have to go to work and I don't have anything I need to do, then I don't know. Then I usually just kind of do whatever I please, I guess. And maybe that's something regrettable, but you know, like, even if it's a day off and I told somebody we're going to go have breakfast in the morning or something, then yeah, I'm going to totally get up early. But if I don't have anything to do in the morning, then I may just continue to sleep. The more I live, though, the more I kind of have started to think, I'm not super sure that the right way to go is to worry too much about thinking like you need to, you know, do some specific thing, right? Like, you should make sure that you always, you know, get up at 5:30 in the morning. And if you do that, then you're going to be successful. Or make sure that you read a book every day. And if you do that, you're going to be successful. Or, you know, whatever it is, you know, like, it's not that these are not valid things. It's just, once you take a good idea and you elevate it to the point of it being like a religion, or you have to do it, and if you don't do it, then you're a failure, it just starts to get tiring, you know, and then it does more harm than good, I think, because then you're just feeling like your day is consumed with all these obligations of what you have to do, you know. It's like when I was married before, like, I was, you know, like, when things were new, like, me and my wife, it was pretty good, you know, like, I would take pictures of her all the time in different places, and it was just fun, right? You know. And then as time went on, I noticed this subtle shift, and then it was like, it was expected, you know. And then she would want me to, you know, give her attention or take pictures or different things. And instead of me just wanting to do it, it was more like feeling like I get in trouble if I didn't do it. And then that was like, you know, that was like putting, kind of putting out the fire at that point, you know, because, you know, if you say you love somebody, that's great. But then if they make a point to, like, put you on the spot and then start to demand that you validate that you love them, and then they get mad at you if you don't do enough, then at that point what started off as joy devolves into some sort of a obligation or a chore, and it's really, you know, that's not a good thing for a relationship. It's not a good thing for life either. And I think it's also, you know, it's applicable in things like routines that you may have. So do things because you want to, do things because you love it, not because you made some kind of a contract with yourself that you're going to, you know, always do some specific thing. All right, so our need for sleep meter has mostly filled up, so we're gonna make our way into this here rest stop. Now we got off Interstate 90 and we're headed south, so probably while we're parked I'll pull up the map so I can get a better idea of you know, where exactly are we now. I can stop the engine to rest, so we're gonna just go ahead and do that. Let's take a look at the map. So all right, so where are we at? We are now on our way through Wyoming, a little ways outside of Cody, Wyoming, on the northern edge of the state. And we're going to go south through Wyoming. We're going to go straight through Casper. We're going to go through Cheyenne. And then we're going to wind up in central Nebraska. And before we get to Lincoln, we're going to turn south to go into Kansas. And then we'll finish our journey by turning eastward in Wichita and ending our journey in Joplin, Missouri, which is just about an hour north of Bentonville, Springdale, Fayetteville, that metro area. Unfortunately, in the game, Bentonville never made it in, and Bentonville would be one exit north of, well, a few exits north of Springdale. So like Bentonville would be right there on the border, because it's a little corridor. So Fayetteville is the furthest south and Bentonville is the furthest north for the little metro area, which is northwest Arkansas. But Joplin is pretty close, and it was the closest I could get for the delivery that I was doing. So up to this point, we've made it from Helena to Butte, through Bozeman, turned south in Laurel. So here we are in Wyoming. So let's get some rest. All right, here we are. Still have plenty of gas. It is 10:19 a.m. game time. Pulling out. You know, I think one of the nicest feelings is when you're on a road trip and you sleep, and then you get up early and you start your day. And I mean, the air is crisp. I know we were just talking about not going to bed until late, but like, even if you went to bed late, when you're on a road trip, you don't sleep in, you know, like you get up in the morning because you're excited, kind of, you're not at home, you're on an adventure, you go down there to the lobby, you get yourself a coffee, and maybe you go to McDonald's and get a crappy breakfast or whatever it is, you know, and you just sniff the air and you start the day, and it just feels like the whole world is ahead of you in that moment. And that's one of the things I love the most about travel. Another thing I really love is the sense of stopping off at a random rest stop or truck stop or diner and just, you know, just having a good experience in there, eating some kind of diner food, you know, or stopping in a little Main Street kind of a deal like this one that we're in here. It reminds me a little bit of Moses Lake, downtown Moses Lake in the middle of central Washington. One of my favorite stops if I'm driving along Interstate 90 between, say, Montana and Seattle. Nice little coffee shop in there. And I'll always remember that coffee shop because last time I was there, I ordered myself a latte and they gave me these chocolate covered coffee beans along with the latte. There's a latte and then the little chocolate covered beans were just on top of there as like a little extra treat. Shoot, I got in trouble. I just had to pay $400 for a speeding violation. I guess there was a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit in the middle of town here. Oh well, no big deal because, you know, American Truck Simulator is not a game where you have to worry about how much money you have. I have $5.5 million in my bank account in American Truck Simulator, so I don't think the $400 fine is going to be too much of a concern. But, you know, I guess for realism purposes, I should try to follow the law. Or maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should just, like, pedal to the metal and be as reckless as possible. But, you know, I sometimes feel like with games like these, you have a better experience if you treat it like it's real life, you know? Like, you don't do anything that you wouldn't do in real life. Same thing with RPGs. If you avoid fast travel and you really just kind of interact with the environment about the same as you would if it was real, then it feels more like there's weight behind the things that you do. Like, even if you don't have to, like there's not a penalty or a game mechanic that's going to punish you. It's just nice to role play in a way that forces you to treat everything in a way that is kind of grounded and realistic and aligns with the, you know, the way you would probably act if it was real. Then it feels more real. So we're on, I guess, State Route 14. I don't even know where I am now, other than somewhere in Wyoming. Not sure that I've ever traveled this road. I don't think I've traveled this road in real life or in game. I've driven to Wyoming once, early this year, to go get my new computer from the Micro Center in Denver, because there isn't anything like that in Montana. So I went on a trip to Micro Center, headed out, went on a long drive to Denver, bought the computer, and then checked into a hotel, spent one night on the northern outskirts of Denver. Then I got up in the morning and headed back home. And it was a long 2 days, but it also felt pretty impressive to successfully haul myself from Helena, Montana down to Denver by road and then get back home with a new computer by the end of the day, the next day. So that's actually pretty cool. Pretty cool deal. It's one of those things, you know, you can talk about it later on. It creates memories. I did stop and hang out in a Cabela's down there, talking to somebody. Oh no, whoops, it's another speeding violation. Yeah, keep forgetting about those 30 mile an hour speed limits in town. Fun fact is, though, I haven't done a lot of commuting because I mostly just walk to work and hang around. So, haven't had any traffic incidents or violations in real life for quite some time now. I just think it's interesting. Most people don't even know that I ever drive anywhere just because I normally just walk places. Like I walk out of my apartment, walk down the street, walk to work. And people just see that and then they automatically jump to the conclusion that if you're walking everywhere, that must mean that you can't drive. Just because it's like an American thing, especially in a place like Montana, people just assume like no one in their right mind would ever walk somewhere when they can drive there. Because people will like circle a parking lot 5 times just to see if they can get a parking spot a little closer to the door. And then people wonder why they're fat. Like, shoot, obese people everywhere fighting to see how close to the front of the Walmart store they can get. I kind of resent them, to be honest. Fatties. Not saying that I resent all fat people. What I resent is lazy ones, lazy people that just sit around. You know, like they're sitting there eating Cheetos on the couch, watching the football game, and they think that they're part of the team because they're watching the ball game from the couch, and they're 350 pounds. Yeah. You can't even get up off there to go to the refrigerator to get yourself some more snacks without getting winded. So, like, don't look at people that are fit running around in the middle of the field tackling each other and stuff and act like you're part of that because you were watching it. My HR manager, very fat woman. We've been friends, sorta. I don't know if we're friends, actually. Hard to tell, you know? Like, we go to work. We work together. Thankfully, now we don't work anymore together. But we may stay friends via text message or once in a while a phone call or something. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm moving away, so I won't be spending any more office time with her. But she always says she's very fat, and she cannot help it because it's just a thing. She was born fat, and she's fat because she cannot be anything else. But I really do feel like if you're obese, that has something probably to do with you. It's not just that you can't do anything about it. Maybe how badly do you want to do something about it? I don't know. I just know there's a lot of lazy people driving around big vehicles who hate walking around anywhere. Like my old boss, like I'm leaving town, he knows it, so we're gonna hang out one last time. It's like, do you want to go hike up Mount Helena? He's like, yes. And then the day comes and he's like, oh, I have a change of plans. You know what we should do? We should drive up to this really scenic place that I found, and I want to show it to you. I was like, cool. However, I also was thinking to myself, you know, you probably want to drive up the mountain because you really don't want to walk up the hill. Like, that's probably the truth. Just saying. So, you know, no big deal. But I'm probably not wrong. We have 1,060 miles left to go. And we've been here in the truck for 53 real minutes as I look at the recording. So I think we're definitely going to make it to our destination in a timely way. What is this? It's like a weird little rest stop. There's a guy over there making selfies of himself. Very cool. All right. Well, I don't know. What river are we driving along? I need to focus on the road because, like, I've already had 2 speeding violations, and then there's somebody there with cones and stuff. I'm probably not going fast enough because I got people behind me. I can see them. There's a truck and there's like 2 cars. There's 3 tunnels ahead. Oh no, there's an RV. Let's try not to crash. Ooh, whoops. Yep. Lane maintenance. There's 1 tunnel. There's another tunnel. And there is indeed the 3rd tunnel. Last time I actually saw a tunnel like that in real life, it was when we stopped on going to the Sun Road, going into Glacier National Park. There's little tunnels like that And the tunnels were filled with people who were tourists looking around. So I thought that was interesting, you know, when you're trying not to drive into the side of the mountain and then you realize there's a bunch of random people like walking around there, and then you have to be extra careful not to run over anyone. All right, so where are we at now? Let's see. I know we're gonna swing left over here. We're headed toward Casper. And that is Shoshone. Sounds like a Native American kind of a place. So there's a lot of Native Americans in Montana and Wyoming. And there's also a lot of Native Americans in Washington State. And I've lived in the vicinity of both. But what's interesting is in Washington State, the Native Americans run a lot of tribal casinos, which are really, really big. Like, they're like huge. If you've never been to one, they're super cool because you could go there at any hour of the day or night, and oftentimes they have 24-hour food. So like you could go at 2 in the morning and get yourself an omelet in the kitchen or something like that. Just tons and tons of slot machines, and you just have that amazing vibe of going into a casino late at night. And even if you're not a gambler, you just hear the slot machines and people are kind of milling around everywhere, and it just was a really cool vibe to go into those casinos and hang out. And there was one casino that got built, and they actually made a reservation for a tribe that didn't have a reservation. And the territory of the reservation was actually just the piece of land that they were going to use to build a casino. Like, there was no reservation that was not also the casino property. Like, that's all it was. The entire reservation was the casino. That was like central western Washington, somewhere between Portland and Tacoma, Washington is where this happened. I used to like going to Snoqualmie Casino, which is adjacent to I-90. And if you're ever on your way into Seattle or out of Seattle, it's just a really beautiful building, and you go in there. It's out of town, so you don't have like riffraff and stuff. It's mostly tourists coming through and things, and it's just a pretty nice ambiance in there. And a great stop if you want to get off the road before you get into the Seattle metro. But once you go to Montana, the Native Americans are very different. Like, they are much more likely to be into traditional stuff like powwows and all of the things that are really important to real historical, cultural Native American traditionalists. And like, if you go to the Capitol here in Helena, you're going to have all of the flags of all of the different tribes flying there next to the flag of Montana, because it's just important. It's an important part of the state's history and culture. And I thought that was pretty neat. But then there's also a lot of blight and a lot of problems. There's crime that's unique to the reservations because local police and law enforcement don't have jurisdiction there, so they have to police themselves. And then there's a lot of things like alcohol abuse that happens there, domestic violence, sometimes people disappearing or abductions. There's a lot of weird stuff like that that happens in Montana associated with tribal lands and all of that. So like there's definitely a dark side to it. Like in Havre, not Havre, but near Havre, you have Browning, Montana, the northern part of the state. And it's a tribal city, but it's probably also the most blighted, dilapidated, run-down town that I have ever been in. Like there's just nothing about the town that's not really, really rough. Like it's covered in garbage. There's tons of buildings that don't even have roofs. Like it's just very, very rough up there. And it shows extremely visibly that there's a problem in some of these communities where you have corruption and you have people who never really leave town. They don't have the talent to administer city municipal government. Like even things like plowing snow maybe just doesn't happen because they don't prioritize that, you know. But then you go a little ways down the road to a town that's not tribal and you don't have any of those problems. But for a lot of people who maybe are born there, you know, that's all they've known. Like they don't have anything else. So they live in a little town, it's blighted, they don't have good schools, they don't have access to services, they might have things like abuse going on, and even getting out of town to another city in Montana would feel like something they don't have the ability to do because they're trapped. And that's really kind of crazy. Like I know there's stuff like that happens in Alaska too, but Montana, it is definitely part of the country where there's a lot of things that happen that would probably shock city dwelling people in big metros where there's usually a lot of access to services of various sorts. And even in the corporate world, I think things like Walmart, it's interesting to see how, you know, the way Walmart is in places that are close to home office or maybe in bigger cities and things like that versus what it's like in a far out of the way town where there's just not a lot of talent, there's not a lot of oversight. It's a lot easier to have people who kind of have their own interpretation of policy and they don't really actually follow, you know, the corporate culture of the rest of the organization. Like people, you know, they make their own silos and then they kind of are isolated from the rest of the organization, and it starts to show after a while. Like you can just tell, like people move at a different pace in Montana. One reason why I'm looking forward to being in a different place myself. Now, as we're driving along here, I'm looking at this truck that just passed us with that coil on there, and I'm thinking about videos I've watched about these exact types of loads. Those coils, which you can see there, are so heavy, it's unbelievable. And like if that truck stops, the coil will potentially come loose and completely decimate the cab. So like drivers have to be super careful with those to make sure they don't stop suddenly, to make sure they don't have an accident while carrying one, to make sure that they're strapped down in a way that is effective. But really, like there's a type of trailer which has an indent in the middle, which is designed specifically for hauling those coils. And in real life, you would only see probably one coil on a truck just because they are actually that heavy. So heavy that you would not want to load more than one on a trailer. I have to be careful making these turns. I feel like I'm gonna tip myself over. Probably should get back into the left lane because I don't know that I really am gonna be passing anybody here. There's a nice truck stop down there. as I'm on the road, I always like the big truck stops where you have like the showers and you have all kinds of amenities. You might even have like restaurants inside the truck stop. But then I also think about what it's like for drivers, like where you're driving a truck, right? You cannot really pull over except at a few places that are big enough to support a trailer. And it can just be really, really hard. Like even just having access to good food. Like I look at truck drivers and a lot of them are super fat. And that's one profession where I think about how hard it would be to stay fit, right? Like I'm not saying you can't, but it can be hard because like what do you do? You know, like you're on the road potentially for a lot of hours and it is going to make you tired, right? So if you're tired, like you might not have exercised all day, but you're still tired, then where are you going to exercise? Like, are you going to like walk around the truck stop or walk around, like maybe you stay in a hotel and then you could walk on a treadmill in there. But like I can totally see where you have this toxic mix of not being able to get very much exercise. And then you also have a lot of difficulty having access to good food, or even like food that's not going to be potentially fattening. So you have these guys, they just live their life sitting in one place and eating junk food much more than they should. I'm not saying that it has to be that way or it's that way for everybody, because it's not. And I know there are some drivers that really love what they do and they manage to find ways to stay fit and all of the above. But for a lot of folks though, like I know I can totally relate to how it happens where they wind up struggling with some of that health stuff just because of the nature of the job. And like it's kind of like when I got an office job, then I had to get a treadmill and had to worry about like how many steps am I getting, and I never thought about it before that because I was getting a lot of exercise at work. You know, like if anything, I was getting too much exercise at work because I was struggling to get enough sleep, struggling maybe even to eat right. And I was walking, you know, like 12 miles every single day while working the night shift. And I don't think night shifts are even really good for you. See, I was going to try to pass this truck and I just can't pass him. He's hauling too fast. Like now here's a car. It's going to pass me. So I guess I'm going to get over it again. One thing about American Truck Simulator is if you're doing an external contract for whatever reason, its speed limits you automatically. So you can't go faster than 65 miles an hour, which is fine, but no recklessness when you're doing an external contract. I'm not super sure why, but apparently it has something to do with the fact that the external contract version of hauling stuff in the game goes onto the leaderboard on the website, and they don't want people to essentially rank up in a way that's not consistent or fair. So they want to make sure you can't like have record times because you were driving recklessly, because that would penalize players who choose to play in a more disciplined and fair, by the rules kind of a way. So, you know. Now, if you do the other contracts, then that rule doesn't exist. But they don't go into the online profile. And then the other difference there is external contracts are usually measured in real time. So like if you pause the game and then you come back, you just have to get it done before a certain number of real life hours go by. Whereas other types of hauling in the game are actually measured in game time. So you would have to you'd have to complete the ones, the other ones you have to complete within a certain amount of time in game. So you have to, you know, really pay attention. Like, you wouldn't want to rest if you didn't have to rest in the game for regular contracts, because, you know, every time you rest it's like 8 hours. So if you rested twice, then that would mean you have taken, you know, 16 hours of rest instead of 8, and that'll add up quick. So usually I do the external contracts, partly for that reason, because I don't like to have to worry about rushing in the game to get where I need to go. And I don't really need to go faster than 65 miles an hour. We'll put it on cruise control. Right now, we're an hour and 10 minutes into the video, and we are 812 miles away from our destination. And probably once we get done delivering in Joplin, we'll continue a little ways further south to end the video in Fayetteville, just because, you know, I want to go the full distance. So, not super sure what else I'm going to talk about. That's one of the things. I always wonder, like, people who do Twitch streaming, they sit there and talk non-stop for like hours and hours. That has got to be really difficult and kind of obnoxious. It is a skill, though. Like, you learn how to keep on running your mouth, right? I think I can do it for like a video for a couple hours when I'm in the mood, but if I had to do it every single day for like 8 hours a day, I can definitely see where that would stop being something I look forward to, and it would become something that would feel like a chore. That's one reason why, like, I really focus a lot more on content that's not heavily edited, because, like, once you start to say, I'm gonna edit all of my content heavily, then now you're making a really big time commitment, which can just burn you out pretty quick. And then after a while, maybe you don't make content at all, just because the amount of effort that you're requiring of yourself is too much. It's kind of like when people say, I'm going to go to the gym every day, and then do they really go to the gym every day? Yeah, they do for the first 2 weeks, but then at some point that every single day thing just turns into too much of a burden. And so it's better, I think, to focus just on kind of increasing your level of proficiency a little bit, like to gradually improve the quality of your raw content versus trying to be better at editing all of it, you know? Like, if I post videos of like real places, like, I would rather make sure that I'm getting better at making a video that doesn't need to be edited than to get better at editing a bunch of stuff post-production. Or in the case of video quality, I think I would focus more on, like, what kind of things are we talking about? You know, is it value added type of stuff? Am I getting better at talking to the camera and at engaging in general? And that's more important than things like, you know, am I editing my videos really well? But if there's little things you can do just as a general rule to improve your content over time, that's also something you do want to do. Like, you want to find ways to do things in a way that is better or more efficient or more likely to produce value but you don't want to do things to improve your production, which add a lot of friction. I think that's a kind of a good word to remember. Frictionless experience. And now we have 748 miles to go, driving east on Interstate 80. I think we're already out of Cheyenne. I believe I saw us passing through Cheyenne just a little while ago, so maybe after a little while we'll pull up the map again and see where we're at. But I want to say that we are making our way into Kansas, if I had to make a wild guess here. But I don't know. Don't know exactly where we're at. We'll know when we get to the next town. As I make my way down to Arkansas, I'll be towing a car behind a U-Haul, so it'll be a little bit like driving a semi-truck. When I say a little bit, I definitely mean a little bit. It's nothing like driving a semi-truck, but it is a little bit more like driving a truck than driving a car is. Like, you have to think a little bit about where you're going, because you don't want to drive a box truck and a car that you're towing and then pull into a place where you don't have a convenience of maneuverability. Like, you don't want to take the U-Haul and the car you're towing through the Burger King drive-through. That's probably not a very good idea at all. As I make this video, I still need to get my hotels reserved. I was looking at them, though, so I know what hotels I want to stay at, and I primarily have figured out like where they will be, and the proximity to, like, you know, like a Walmart parking lot or some other abundance of parking is something I took into consideration, and I looked at it on Google Maps just to make sure that I understand, like, what's it going to be like to get there, and then am I going to pull in and know, like, where can I park? Because I don't want to be driving a U-Haul and then towing a car and then get into a parking lot where there's no place where you can just kind of pull off to the side. That could be a friction point if you have to, like, leave the parking lot and then go like some distance away to park on the street or something because there's no convenient parking or whatever. I also think it's nice when you're towing something to just stay out of the major urban cores. Like, you can find a place that's spacious on the outskirts of town. You don't have to, like, go into the middle of the city where there's tons of traffic and maneuverability is difficult and stuff like that. Sometimes the best way to avoid a problem is not to be better at solving problems. It's just to make sure that you're not in a position where the problem exists at all. It is amazing how the last couple weeks have gone by so quickly. Gone from the normal daily grind to having no job and then having some downtime and exploring my home city kind of like a tourist. Today I went out and just hung around. I went to the Capitol building and looked around inside there, talked to a few tourists while I was in there, walked over to the old cathedral, the Cathedral of St. Helena, and stepped in. As I went in, there's a group of people inside there, and I was kind of taking a few pictures of the of the stained glass in the building, but I was trying to be discreet to a point too, because I don't want to disturb the people who might be there actually worshiping or something like that. And a lady was coming out, and she was like, yeah, it's just a rehearsal for a wedding that's going to happen, so totally feel comfortable to just hang around and explore and know that it's fine. You're welcome to do that. And I thought that's so nice. It's amazing how a person can just go a little ways out of their way to make a point to try to make somebody feel more comfortable. And when you do that, that act of generosity is huge, because it just makes it so much easier for others to have a positive experience. I think about my friend Kyle, who works for Walmart at the home office in Bentonville, Arkansas. And I think about January when I flew out there for a couple days of vacation, and I sent him a message and I just said, hey Kyle, it's been a while, because he used to work with us in Montana and then he went down there. And I said, hey, I'll be in town, and if you happen to have the time, it'd be cool to grab a coffee or something. And Kyle took a bunch of time out of his afternoon and made a deliberate point to make me feel welcome and show me around all the facilities and introduce me to some people. And that was a great Arkansas welcome. And I thought, that's so nice. I appreciated that. And just really made a huge difference in terms of, what kind of experience I had. Now, we have a problem here, because I realize I should be resting. I need to rest. However, I pulled into the part of the rest stop which is for passenger vehicles, and that is not the rest area I needed to be in. I needed to pull into that other one, and I didn't. So this is one of those moments where you have to follow the spirit of the law, not the letter. Or maybe, depending on how you see it, maybe we aren't going to follow the spirit of the law either. We're going to just do our own thing. So I'm going to back my way in there, because there's no one else here to stop me. And as you can see, the sun is going down, and I am a tired trucker, so I'm going to be backing my way down there. And I'm not even all that great at backing up. I failed my parallel parking portion of the driver's license when I first got my driver's license, now many years ago. So I always remembered that too. And I just made a mental note to myself, I will not be doing any parallel parking, and it ain't going to be a problem, because there's a lot of big parking lots around. So if that's the deal, then I'm just gonna make sure I never have to parallel park. And I think backing up a semi truck would be kind of in the same ballpark. But you know what? That didn't look too bad. That actually kind of looks like a state-of-the-art kind of a parking job. Oops, a little bit on the grass, on the curb there. Try not to do that. Is that good? Like, can I sleep here? No, I can't. I have to back up further. All right. How far do I have to back up before the game will let me sleep? See, this is what I don't envy about the life of truckers. Like, if you miss a turn, you're really screwed. Imagine in real life, like, you're tired and you need to pull over to sleep, and you can't. I wonder if I'm supposed to park on the other side of the road. I don't know. I don't know. Like, I do see there's a red line on the curb, so like, is that, shoot, now I'm on the grass. Things are getting a little rough here, but you know what, it's late. There's no one, oops, no one there to stop me. All right, so what we're gonna do here is we're gonna see, because maybe it's the other side of the road where you're supposed to stop to sleep. No, I don't think so. All right, well, we're just gonna continue to work on backing up, but I don't have all night to do this, so I better. Oh, look, there we go. Now it let me sleep, but you know what? That seems rough. Like, I can't sleep in the middle of the road like that. I need to kind of. I need to get a little bit further off the road. I don't even know what side I'm supposed to be on. No, it says no parking fire lane. I can see it. So I gotta park on this side by the yellow line. All right. Okay. Yeah, this right here is why I'm not actually a trucker. Because if I'd tried this in real life, I'm sure the state patrol would have an issue with me. But you know what? That's enough. It's good enough. Folks can get around me. So we're gonna. Oops! I hit the wrong button. I'm decoupling my trailer. Hang on here. I want to decouple the trailer. Well. Why won't it let me? Okay, there we go. All right. Stop the engine. There we go. All right. Nice peaceful night. Let's get some more sleep. Is this the second time we've slept? I think it is. Right. Beautiful morning. Game time, 7:34 a.m. Look at that. Now, before we hit the road, let's take another look at the map. Where are we even at? All right, we got a ways to go. We made it through Wyoming. We are now in Nebraska, and we're making our way toward Lincoln, Nebraska. And then we're going to turn south to make our way through Kansas. So, there's that. 609 miles left to go. Maybe we'll change the view a little bit from the view in the cab to this over-the-top view. I have to adjust my volume levels because when you go to that view, it's a little bit louder because you're outside the cab. It is a nice view, though. I might change back in a little while, but we'll see. Speeding kills. Better late than never. You know, one thing I've noticed when I'm driving, I like to take my time. Like, I went up to McDonald Pass yesterday just to look around and take in the scenery. And I hate it when people are like right up behind me, just riding my rear end. Like, I just hate that. Like, come on, man. Like, I just want to enjoy the scenery and I want to go slow and I don't want you all behind me. I'm not trying to do you no harm. I just want to take in the view and, you know, like, that's one of those things. It seems like everybody's in such a hurry all the time. They're very self-important. Like, everybody's all about trying to get places in a hurry, and it just feels like it's kind of obnoxious, you know? Like, isn't it nice just to go on your leisurely drive and not worry too much about when you get there? And do you even really get there all that much faster when you're in a huge hurry? I don't know. Like, oftentimes it's just like a huge competition to get another half a dozen car lengths ahead of somebody. So we are going to get off the freeway here to get some gas, because I'm down to like a quarter tank and I don't want to get in trouble later on. So looks like we could turn off either way, but I think the right here would be the easiest one to go fuel up at. So, oh no, hold up. Yeah, I gotta go to the next one. That ain't the right place. See, truck entry only. That's over here. And there we go. Like, there we have a nice wide open spot for us to get some gas. And we're gonna fuel up. Diesel price is $3.31 in the game. I wonder if the gas price in the game changes based on like some kind of real world pricing data. I don't know, but $3.30 kind of sounds sort of legit. I don't keep too much track of what gas prices are, so I don't know, but that's one interesting thing. Like, when I was doing a lot of driving, like a while ago, I used to pay much more attention to what fuel prices were, and I cared. But now I don't do a lot of driving, so it doesn't really make a lot of difference to me. All right, so, all right, I think yep, all right, I'm all right. We're on the road again, and all right, 579 miles left to go. 10 hours of game time before we reach our destination. Don't know how much time that translates to in real life, but we are looking at the 1 hour and 32 minute mark in the video, so I would imagine like it's about another half hour we have in real life time till we get there. But we're all rested up and we got a fuel tank that is full, so this might be enough gas to finish getting there. We'll see. I've never been to Nebraska in real life. If you say Nebraska, well, actually, hold up, I take that back. I have. I've been to Omaha, Nebraska. I went there in February of this year, and I was there with my boss and my HR manager, and actually all of my peers. We all went out there for a business trip to have a meeting, and we stopped in the neighborhood where Warren Buffett lives and took a look at his house, which is pretty cool. It's a nice house. It's unpretentious, pretty simple house. Certainly not really what you would think of when you say billionaire rather, richest man in the world or whatever Buffett is. But all of that being said, there was a lot of security there. Like, you could tell, like all around, like within a 1 block radius of his house, like there's security cameras all over the place on sticks and everything. So like, you know, like it just feels awkward to even stop there, to be around, because you can tell like people are like, there's people sitting in a room watching everything that happens around there. Like it may be a simple, unpretentious place, but it's still behind a gate, and like I would not be doing any shenanigans around there. Other than that, though, Omaha, Nebraska did not seem like a very interesting place to me. There's so much garbage blowing around everywhere, and I think the thing that does it is it's windy. It's windy in Nebraska, at least that part of it. So the wind takes any garbage and blows it up into trees and everywhere. So like, well, you can't go anywhere without just seeing garbage up in trees and bushes and stuck in stuff all over. Like there's probably garbage in other places too, but like, man, I saw so much trash stuck in bushes and trees and stuff like that there. I didn't see anything that really stood out to me in Omaha. It does seem to be a bigger city than anything we have in Montana, but it also did not seem like a place that spoke to me in any particular regard. Like it didn't make me feel excited about being there. It didn't seem great. It didn't seem bad. It kind of, you know, it was what it was, you know, like it wasn't special, wasn't deplorable. But when I went to Northwest Arkansas, on the other hand, and hung around down there in Bentonville, Arkansas, that felt really kind of homey. It felt nice. Like I was thinking about wanting to be there more. Like it just felt like home, kind of. And you know, that reminds me, like that same time period, like right around there, like I was on my way back and I was talking to this priest. Actually, it was not back on my way back from Bentonville. It was on my trip back from Omaha. It's on the plane, and there's this priest, and he was sitting in the seat right next to me on the airplane. So I'm sitting there, you know, and then toward the end of the boarding process, the guy shows up and sits down, and I believe he had the little white collar on, so I kind of knew he was a priest because he had that. Anyways, we were talking, and he said he was off on his way to go visit some other priests, and they were all going to be doing some skiing, I believe, in Colorado. But we just talked about different stuff. We talked about how there's a little group of monks, Catholic monks, that have a coffee company, and they grow coffee and they grind coffee. Like I don't know, like they brew it and then they sell it. Like they sell coffee. Like I'm not sure exactly how they do it. I assume that they grow the beans themselves. But anyway, it's a coffee company that was founded and is run by Catholic monks, and that's what they do. And I thought, isn't that cool to be doing that? Rather mindful, peaceful thing for them to be doing. I thought that was cool. Anyway, while we were on the flight, I was just talking to this priest about, you know, how I'd gone out to Arkansas and I explored the place, and it just felt like home. And the priest shared his story. He said, you know, like there was a time, like I was working a regular job and I was seeing a girl, and you know, like if I wanted to devote my life to the church and stuff, like, you know, like I can't be like getting married and all of that because priests are not allowed to. And he said, I just remember I was asking God kind of for like guidance on like what should I do with my life? Like should I give up everything and commit my life to your service? And he said, I remember looking at this tree and I saw a certain beauty in it just growing into what it was supposed to be. And I had this moment of clarity and peace And I just kind of knew that, like, the tree doesn't try to grow. It doesn't look for a sign. It doesn't do anything forcefully. It just kind of is what it is, and it grows from what it was to what it is, and like it's just a very organic, natural process. And he said, I realized that when you have a calling and you're supposed to go somewhere and do something, it's just like that. It's like a tree that naturally grows into what it's supposed to be. Like, it just happens, and it feels natural. It feels like home. And it's, you know, that's the sign of a true calling, that it's not, there's not a lot of friction there. There's not a lot of fear. There's just peace and surrender. And so then before we got off the plane, he said, you know, let's pray together. And so, like, there we are, like, I'm sitting there and everyone's getting ready to get off the plane, and here I am sitting there with a priest praying on the airplane while he asks God to direct my steps. And I thought, isn't that just an amazing providential kind of a thing? Like, what is the chance? Like, you go out to a place where you haven't been before, you're thinking about like changing your life, relocating, going out there, and you can't really connect all the dots. And then it just turns out that there's a priest there that tells you to pretty much follow your heart and then prays with you. Like, what is the chance that that happens? And I thought that's just kind of crazy and pretty cool. And then, you know, a few months go by, and now we're talking, it's August 2 as I make this video. And, you know, my job got eliminated, and I have this perfect golden opportunity to stay on payroll for a few months and relocate to Northwest Arkansas, and all of the barriers to me going just faded away. And what started off as this feeling that I need to go out there just sort of faded into something that naturally happened, just like that tree growing, you know? And it just feels like the right path, and it feels providential, and it feels, the crazy thing about moving out there is it doesn't feel like I'm going to a place that's foreign. It feels a lot more like going home. And that's pretty crazy. And now I'm, you know, 2 days away from loading up a U-Haul truck and making the journey out there. And all the pieces have fallen into place. Like, I don't know exactly what job I'll find when I go out there. I don't know how it'll all land. There's definitely a lot of question marks that remain. But there's a lot more of a feeling of providence than there is a feeling of doubt at this point. And, you know, I've made other videos talking about how I'm an agnostic, and I don't believe in traditional religion in the sense of taking it literally, you know. But I do believe in providence. I do believe that there is such a thing as a higher power than just pure coincidence and randomness. I do believe that we live in a friendly universe, and that there are signs of hope everywhere, and that when we seek guidance, sometimes there are signs, there are things that'll happen that will help us maybe chart a new course, maybe have a second start, maybe have a second chance to do things differently and to maybe do things better, you know? Like, I think about that story of Moses leading his people to the promised land, and then he climbs up Mount Nebo, and he looks off out of Mount Nebo into the promised land that supposedly was flowing with milk and honey. And he doesn't get to go into the promised land. The people that he served went into the promised land, but he wasn't able to. And I think about how maybe in life we have the opportunity to help other people, but we don't get a chance to help ourselves, because sometimes the way we help other people is by making mistakes that we're not able to come back from. But then maybe we can tell other people. Maybe we can be a light to other people. We can share that experience in a way that is going to uplift others so that they can have a better path. But then I also think that sometimes we think that there is no hope for us and there's maybe hope for others. But we are not able to be reconciled. And I think sometimes that's not true. Sometimes you can go climb up the mountain and you can look into the promised land, and then you can go there. And you do have the opportunity for second chances and redemption and forgiveness and hope more than you realize. And I would say, if you are watching or listening, you know, remember that. Like, if you feel hopeless or you feel like you're a lost cause, just remember a lot of people feel like lost causes sometimes, and there's a lot of room in this world for forgiveness and for hope. So don't feel like there is no such thing for you. But on that thought, though, I also thought it was super interesting. There is a national park 2 hours away from where I'll be living in northwest Arkansas, which is named after that very Mount Nebo I was telling you about. Mount Nebo National Park, I believe it is. In any case, Mount Nebo is one of the highest points in Arkansas, and it was one of the first protected park reserves to be established in the state there. So, as much as I like that story about Moses and Mount Nebo, I thought it was really interesting to learn that the place where I'm going actually happens to have its very own biblically named Mount Nebo right there, just a couple hours southeast of Bentonville, Fayetteville. So, one of the first things I want to do when I go down there is I want to go to the visitor center up there, and I want to look out and see what exactly it is I can see from Mount Nebo. And, you know, that'll be like my Moses looking into the promised land moment. And, you know, maybe it's the Arkansas version of Moses looking into the promised land, but if that's true, then maybe it's a good sign, because I'll be going to the promised land before I climb up Mount Nebo, so I'll know that I'm not a lost cause. Anyways, thought that was interesting and pretty cool. But here in the game, looks like we just entered into what is that? Is that Missouri? Nah, I don't know. Let's take a look. Where are we at here? It's is that Missouri? Oh, no. I guess I took a different turn. That's what I did, and I made my way into Missouri, and So, well, we're not going through Kansas anymore. We're going to be going down through Kansas City. So the interesting thing here is that this is actually the route that I'm going to be taking in real life. Like, I'm going to be in real life, when I go down there, I'll be going into South Dakota, but then I'll be going to Sioux City and on down this corridor through Omaha. But this here is where the route that I'm taking in the game actually aligns with the route that I'll be taking when I actually drive down there. So we are going to approach St. Joseph. We're going to go through Kansas City, and then we'll make our way into Joplin. So good stuff. 330 miles to go. This is probably about the longest video that I've ever made. I've never really done a long, like, gameplay kind of a video where the focus of the video is at least 50% kind of gameplay. But I will say I've been a fan of Jeff Favango and his YouTube channel. And man, I really love that guy's content. It's amazing. If you haven't watched it, you should. But it was actually Jeff Favango's American Truck Simulator videos that got me hooked on the book called The Secret. And it's all about positive energy, positive thinking, and bringing good things into your life by sending out good things into the universe, and just having that belief that if you think and meditate on good things, those good things will have a way of manifesting in your life. And I wouldn't begin to try to tell his story, but in one of his videos he was telling the story of how he started to practice that sort of focus on being positive and on meditating on good things, and his life got much better than he ever would have imagined it could have after he started to change his focus on how he looked at life. And I think that that's a really good message, and I'd also recommend it to anybody. If you haven't, read the book called The Secret, or if you can, watch the movie called The Secret. I think it's Dare to Dream, I believe is what it's called, but it's called The Secret. But if you search for that movie, it's a really, really good, positive, uplifting movie about changing your life by changing your thoughts. And my goodness, that's an amazing thing. And, I've thought about, like, what do I focus on in life? And I've spent a lot of time thinking about things like, what's the stock market doing? What's my portfolio look like? What's going on in politics? What's going on in the news? What's going on with Donald Trump? What's cryptocurrency doing? Like, all that stuff, and the more time has gone on, the more I've focused on the positive stuff, the uplifting stuff, the spiritually edifying stuff, the more all that other stuff just seems like noise. And I start to realize, you know what? I don't need to be thinking about that stuff. I just want to focus on things that help me to have peace in my life, or maybe help me to share that peace with other people. And like, even when you think about having relationships and stuff, like, how many women are there out there that really want to hear their man sit there talking about cryptocurrency and Donald Trump all day? Like, I don't know. Like, maybe there's a few, but I think you're gonna probably have a little more luck with the ladies if you are a little bit more of a zen, peaceful kind of a person, a little bit less of a crypto bro. Just my opinion. I mean, yeah, maybe you have more luck if you buy the crypto and then it goes to the moon and then you can enjoy your private island somewhere. Then yeah, maybe, they will like that. But if all you're doing is binge watching YouTubers talk about crypto and Donald Trump all the time, Like maybe change it. And on that thought, I really think we need to train the algorithm to serve us instead of us serving it. Like there's so many times when you just, like there's this garbage out there. It's AI made stuff, it's stupid stuff, it's negative stuff, it's people slandering each other, it's people raging about things that nobody even cares about. Like I think I was talking about this in another video, but like my boss sends me a short video that's a video about, it was like an old commercial that was saying that people who smoke are gay to try to make people not smoke. I'm like, all right. So like why? Like why are you sharing this stuff with me? I mean, you have a straight guy that wants to constantly share stuff about like making fun of the gays. You know, it kind of makes you wonder, like what is the deal? Like are you a closeted homosexual? Is that what you're trying to tell me? I don't know what it is. Like, because the way I see it, like more and more, I mean, I don't really want to spend all my time thinking about the sexual orientation of others. Like that's not really top of the list. Like I'm not super worried. Like as long as you are not doing me some kind of harm, I don't care what your sexual preferences are. And if that's a thing, like it just seems like it's part of the ecosystem, you know, like all the, you know, crypto bros and the Trump people and the, you know, the far right people and like all that, just like how the lefties feel like they gotta wear face masks for no reason sometimes and they gotta dye their hair or whatever. The, you know, like the right leaning people have to be like making fun of the homosexuals and the queers and stuff. Like I don't need to. Like I don't need it. Just leave me out of it. You want to make fun of people and say rude things, you know, or demean people or something to be macho, then just go do it by yourself. Go do it with your buddies. Go do it with somebody else, because that's not the kind of energy that I want to define the rest of my life by. I want to focus on loving others, not on polishing my ego by diving down the rabbit hole of negativity. And there's a lot of negativity on the internet, and so I think it's best to, you know, cut back on some of that internet time, start getting comfortable with hitting the not interested button and the do not recommend channel button, because your life matters too much to let other people disturb your peace and then suck you into a pattern of frustration and hate and judgment and all of that stuff. Like the reality is, you would not like other people to judge you, so do not judge others. That is a scripture. Judge not, lest ye be judged. I went into the Parrot Confectionery today. It's a little store that's filled with candies, downtown Helena, and it is also a store which sells a good bowl of chili. And I was not there for the candy, I was there for the chili. I walk in and order my bowl of chili, and then I got a call from somebody just checking in. And so I was just talking to that person, my one of the members of my team, and well, my old team. And so I was talking to her, and you know, I appreciated that she'd reached out, because you know, she didn't have to. So we were just talking about, you know, the move and what's going on and all of that stuff. And then I realized that the store is getting ready to close. So like I needed to get off the phone and eat my chili. So I proceeded to do that. Anyway, what stood out to me at this restaurant was this girl who was just very, very kind and super hospitable and respectful and just really warm and comforting, you know? And she was just like, yeah, you know, we're gonna close in a little while here, but you know, like you take your time, and just like she just really went out of her way to be super polite, super friendly, super, you know, like happy to serve, and just really just made it a very pleasant experience. And I thought, you know, it's just it makes such a huge difference when somebody goes out of their way to be kind and to have a smile and to genuinely seem like they enjoy what they're doing and they enjoy being in your presence, you know? Like compare that though to, I went in the U-Haul place to make my reservation to get the U-Haul truck, and I'm sure I could have gone online and done it on there, but I just wanted to go into the place and talk to somebody. So I step in there, and there's this like older guy in there, and he's just standing there doing nothing. So I walk in, and then he looks at me like he hates my guts just because I'm there. And then he says something about like, did you go online? I'm like, no, I didn't go online. I want you to do it. And so now he's inconvenienced even more because he can't have to like get off his ass. And then he's like, well, all right, like what's your name and like your address and stuff. So I gave him my driver's license. Like, here, you can copy it off of there. He's like, no, I don't need your driver's license. I just need you to tell me. So I go, okay, I'll tell you then. So he types it in, and then he's complaining because his computer's loading slow or something. And then he's like, all right, I need a credit card so that I can, you know, hold this reservation for you. And I'm like, all right, well, here's my credit card. There you go. And he's like, no, I don't need your credit card. I need you to read the numbers off to me. Okay, I guess so. I'll read you the numbers. You know, and then he's like, you got a reservation for Monday, and you know it'll probably be for 3:30 or something, and you got to be there. You got to be there because if you're there, if you're more than 30 minutes late, then we'll give it away to somebody else, and it's first come first serve after that, man. I'm like, okay. I wasn't really planning to be late, but like now you really have just sent all the messages that, you know, you're super inconvenienced by the fact that I didn't make my reservation online, and you're inconvenienced by the thought of having to, like, you know, read a number off of my credit card yourself or like any of that. You don't like data entry, clearly, and you know, you went out of your way to let me know that, you know, despite the fact I have a reservation, you'd be more than happy to give my reservation to somebody else if I'm not there on time. Like, you really just sent all the signals in the world that you are as unhappy to help as possible. And then like I look at the guy and I think, you know what happens when everybody does do all their reservations online and nobody needs him anymore? You know, what happens when the AI revolution takes away his job? Well, probably the super kind, likable girl at the Parrot confectionery candy and chili shop is going to have a job of some kind because she is likable and she is kind and she is able to connect with people in an authentic way. But the grouchy guy at the U-Haul shop who hates everybody and thinks that someone asking him to even do a basic task is an inconvenience, well, he will probably not be working. He's going to be, I don't know, collecting some kind of minimal universal basic income stipend while he bitches about how the world is going to pot. And if there is a lesson there, it's that the world will change, and we will have to change with it, and sometimes it'll be very difficult to navigate those changes. But you can always control what kind of a person you are. You can choose whether you have a smile on your face or if you are nasty. You can choose whether you have a spirit of service or if you have a spirit of selfishness. And those are the kinds of things which are going to differentiate good people from good chatbots. So if you don't want to be made obsolete, well, there's a lot of things maybe that are hard to do, but one of the easy things is just to treat other people the way you'd want to be treated. And you'd be surprised how little interactions, like the girl at the chili shop, can make a huge difference. Because you know what she doesn't know? What she doesn't know is that this is the last time I'm going to ever see that chili shop. I'm never going to be back in there, probably for as long as I live. What she doesn't know is that's probably the last time I'm ever going to be downtown Helena, Montana. So you see, like, that positive, friendly, welcoming warmth means a lot, because I'm going to remember that for the rest of my life, probably. Not because it was a huge thing, but because it was an act of kindness on what was the last time I will ever see a place. So that's saved in my memory. And I wish her well, whoever she is. You never know when you have the opportunity to make a positive difference in someone's life or someone's day. And you can think it's all about the enormous things, the things that dramatically change a person's course, but it's really not. It's the little things. It's acts of generosity that really count in life. It's when we do something kind that we don't have to do. Because there's a basic level of customer service that's expected. There's a basic level of courtesy that's expected, and if you don't do it, then you just seem like you're a nasty person, maybe. Like the guy at the U-Haul shop. But it's totally possible to do what is expected of you. To do what is needed and asked for. To check all the boxes. But to never give anything more. To never really show that you care. It's that small amount of extra going above and beyond to show that you are capable of living a life that lives up to the mantra of loving others. It's that little bit of care to really make a difference. And that spirit of service to something other than yourself will go a long way in life if you practice it. So here we are. We've arrived at our destination. We are gonna deliver this. So let's see. All right. Let's go ahead and do the complex delivery. We will back this trailer up, put it exactly where the customer wants it, if we can do that without doing any damage to ourselves. Doesn't look like it's too hard, especially when you can go out of the cab and have that external view. So let's see, we're 2 hours and 8 minutes into the video, and the game is making yawning sounds to let me know I should have stopped another time to rest. So once we drop off the trailer, then we will we'll actually just have a little bit of fun, and we'll get a little bit more rest, and then we will go that final few miles into Fayetteville, Arkansas, to finish this virtual drive that we are going on, just because I want to. And then, because it is a little after 2 in the morning, I will go to bed as well. And the crazy thing is, I'd say, making this video, it hasn't felt very much at all like 2 hours have passed, because I've actually enjoyed it. And the crazy thing is, somebody said once, if you struggle to be mindful when you're playing games, maybe one way to cure that is to focus on content creation, because when you're focused on making content, like, you can't be focused on other things. You have to be focused on what you're doing. That's kind of true, you know, like, I'm not watching a YouTube video on the other channel, not thinking about doing something else. I'm just driving this truck down the road and being pretty mindful of doing it. We had a pretty safe trip too. Like, other than a couple speeding violations, there weren't really any issues. So 3200 XP. I managed to make it to level 50 in the game, which is legend. That's pretty cool. All right, so let's go to navigation, and we're going to go to the map. And so we are there near Joplin, and what we're going to do is let's see here. Oh, you know what? There looks like there's a viewpoint right there. So that's going to be where we go. Looks like there's a viewpoint. So we're going to go to that viewpoint and take a look at it, because it's just 75 game miles. That's where we will end the video. But first I need to go over here and get some rest, because otherwise I'm going to be yawning the whole way. And if you don't rest after long enough, the game will actually start blacking out your screen so that you can simulate the experience of falling asleep while driving. Which is not an experience I want to replicate, because that is something I've actually done. I've fallen asleep while driving before. That's one reason why I would never recommend being a salaried manager for a Walmart store if you don't have the ability to set clear boundaries about how much time you're willing to put into the business. Because if you think you're going to do 80 hours a week and then drive home after that, well, at some point it catches up to you. I'm trying to find the spot. Where is the sleeping area? There's a truck here that seems to be sleeping. There's an icon there that seems to indicate that that's a rest area, but it doesn't really seem to be. So maybe it's over here. There we go. Well, no. Maybe it's here. Oh, there we go. That's the rest area right there. All right. One final cup of coffee. And I'm drinking coffee today out of an Arkansas mug that I bought. When I was in Arkansas, I bought a mug from the Starbucks. And I've been drinking out of it. I have one for Montana. I have one for Arkansas. I probably ought to get one eventually if I go back to Seattle. Get one for Washington, because that's the other place where I spent a lot of my life living. And, you know, at some point I should get one for Illinois whenever I go there, because that's where I was born. Believe it or not, I still have not yet seen the place where I was born. So, it's on the bucket list to go to Chicago. Thankfully, it's possible for me to go there now. A lot easier, because Chicago is, I believe, a one non-stop flight away from Northwest Arkansas, whereas it would be a connecting flight if I wanted to go there from Montana. Just adds on a certain amount of travel time to go there. So that central location for everything is going to be super nice. It's going to be really humid when I get down there. Humid and hot. So that'll be a little bit hard for me to get used to. But then once we get through the summer, winter is going to be really comfortable, because it's going to be more just comfortable, cool, and rainy, probably. But no negative temperatures like Montana, where 6 or 10 degrees below zero is considered to be normal, and 30 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit is not considered to be abnormal for a Montana winter. Another thing that's actually cool about Northwest Arkansas is there's not really a lot of risk for natural disasters. Like, there's not volcanoes, there's not earthquakes, there's not really a lot of risks or targets for like a nuclear war situation. Uh-oh, look at that. I'm not pulling a trailer and I lost control. Slid right into something. That's alright. It's not too big of a penalty. Just a little bit of humiliation. See, now that I'm not pulling a trailer, it's easier for me to speed and not notice that I am speeding. Like right now, I'm doing 80 miles an hour, which is significantly faster than what I was doing at any point with a trailer. So it can be hard to gauge speed if you're not paying attention and you're not pulling a trailer in the game. So that's shame on me, but not too big of a deal. This is Interstate 49. That's the main interstate that will be cutting through the area where I live. So this will be my main freeway once I settle down there. And there is a sign. Welcome to Arkansas. Isn't that nice? Look at all those green trees. That's probably one of the nicest things about the state. Super green, filled with lovely trees. And Montana is beautiful in its own way, but it also can feel really brown and barren, while Arkansas has that lush, vibrant green, and it's just such a beautiful thing to see it. I do think once I get settled in there, like, I'm probably gonna really love that greenery, and I think the humidity will be hard to get used to, but probably it might be good for health too. Like, I have dry eyes sometimes, and I didn't used to have that issue really when I lived in Washington, but it's so dry in Montana, being at a high elevation, like almost like a high desert. It's bugged me more here, so I kind of think maybe maybe the humidity of a place like Arkansas might be better for some of that stuff too. I do certainly think, like, when you get older and you want to be retiring and stuff, like, do you want to retire in a place that is kind of warmish, or do you want to retire in a place where you'll die of hypothermia if you don't put enough layers of clothing on when you go outside? You know, like for me, I don't worry too much if I slipped in the snow or ice or something, but when you live in a place where it's covered in ice for 9 months out of the year, like, is that really the best place to, you know, to plan to retire? I don't know. I do definitely want to make Arkansas home, though. Like, I think it's one thing you can definitely start over. I think it can be a really healthy thing to let go of some stuff and start over. But there is a point in life, though, you don't want to keep starting over. You want to just let something be home, and then you just build off of that. And that's kind of, you know, that's where I'm at. Oh no, I got a ticket. I got a ticket for not driving with my headlights on. Well, it's the middle of the day. Why do I have to drive with my headlights on in the middle of the day? Oh well, I guess I can pay the $500. No big deal. And we're just about there. Just about there. Oh my goodness. Hit the brakes and I start sliding. Because without a trailer, I just don't have the weight back there. It's interesting how the trailer handles, the truck handles quite differently when you don't have a trailer in the game than it does when you do, which is cool. I heard American Truck Simulator is going to be adding passenger cars, like just normal cars and trucks, pickup trucks that you can drive in the game, and I am super excited about that. They're going to have small deliveries added too. Like, that's going to be so cool to be able to just cruise around in like a normal sedan or something. Like, I am definitely stoked about that. And I'll also be really stoked whenever they get around to releasing the Illinois DLC, because then I'll be able to drive in this game to Chicago. And I think that's about, you know, that's about the only remaining place that's kind of on the bucket list for this game that I really want to be able to see in the game. Not that it won't be super cool to see other places, or to see the entire lower 48 states completed. That'll be super cool too, but I do think being able to drive Route 66 and see Chicago, that's gonna be really, really cool. All right, so let's take the waypoint off. We're just about where we're gonna go. Our viewpoint is just right across the street, so we're gonna go through the intersection here. And once we pull in over there, then we're gonna have a viewpoint. And that is going to end the video. I believe we are quite close to the University of Arkansas campus. Just about 2.5 hours of real time spent here enjoying this game, and it really has been quite a pleasant experience. I've definitely had some fun. Might have to do some other gameplay videos in the future too. Might be a fun way to kind of keep the channel going. I do like the more short form sort of content, like, you know, making 10 or 20 minute videos that are just casual talks, like not gonna do a 3-hour video all the time, but once in a while it can be kind of cool. All right, let's see what this looks like. Yep, there we have it. Fayetteville. It's the university. We've arrived. I drove through this area in January, the end of January. Definitely a beautiful place. In the Bentonville, Springdale, Fayetteville corridor, Fayetteville is the biggest city, and that's where the university is. But it still doesn't have any skyscrapers. Pretty quaint town. It's like feels like a small town, but it has a lot of big city amenities. This is a really pretty cutscene. I do like it. I just got my first, in real life, got my first flag of Arkansas. So I will show up with my own flag of the state to put on the wall or something. In any case, it's been a pleasure, and until next time, as always, wish you well on your adventures. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that if you've made it this far, you've enjoyed your time, and, you know, thank you so much.